chamber.
Remember when we played and they gave those dollars, coins? I've been using it for a ball marker since.
Is that what the marker was? I thought that was a coin from Mexico.
Yeah. I gave it to my son in the pool and he threw it, and it went in our deck hole.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. First item is to approve the agenda. Any deletions, corrections, or additions?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
There's been a motion in a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, approval of the Monday, June 27th minutes.
I thought they read well. Didn't see any in there, corrections in there, so I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for June 27th. Minutes. What did I say, agenda? Minutes.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
it.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, first item on the agenda is the sheriff's quarterly report. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, everybody. Everybody got your copy there?
Yep.
Okay, this past quarter, we took in $3,500 in mileage.
Hey,
$2,384 in miscellaneous trust. Dished out $1,740 to the treasurer for weapons permits. $435 went to the state for weapons permits. And we made $43,934 in room and board for holding out of county prisoners. So after everything was paid, we ended up generating $58,177.74. And as of this morning, we have 24 prisoners in jail, of which 17 are out of county prisoners, either Calhoun. And then a couple months ago, Polk County called, their new jail's full already. We've been holding a few for them. $65 a day.
he said kind of the lower maintenance prisoners too.
Yeah, when we
They've
agreed
been,
to do it, we wanted prisoners that have been sentenced to the county jail already, so they know they're getting out, medically screened. Polk County does all the transports as far as bringing them here, picking them up, all that stuff.
Okay.
So
Any more questions?
you guys are easy today.
Do we do a motion? Not in order for a motion to approve the quarterly report.
I'll make the motion to accept the sheriff's quarterly report. I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I will let you guys know too, last year for the fiscal year, we did generate $102,000 in room and board. So making pretty good money over there. Consider we just moved in February, so.
Not gonna be a big money generator, but
No, but it helps.
it
offset a few of the costs.
offset some of the staff. That'd be great.
Yep.
Thanks,
Again.
Today.
So are those ones you're getting from out of the area, are they pretty well behaved then, or?
Depends. Hate to speak badly of Calhoun County, but some of their prisoners are a bit of a handful. We make do.
So you're getting sacked too?
No, not yet. The Sax jail's still open.
But you said Audubon somebody said Audubon talked to you or something?
No, last time I talked to Audubon County, which was just last week, they had 3 prisoners in. So,
Who did I hear that from then?
Well, I know that they're getting to the point that they're
Maybe it's
getting
a
older.
conversation. that I had.
And so I don't know, did Green make a decision what way they're going?
rumor has it they're supposed to be putting something out in November,
Okay.
a bond issue.
It just was with the
But I
meeting,
haven't heard anything, so.
just was with the meeting with 2 of them in Green County the other night, and I forgot to ask them, see where they're at, but, all right, thanks again.
You bet.
All
Have a
right,
good
thank
day.
you. All right, the next item on the agenda is the CDBG Down Payment Assistance Program to approve revising number of projects. And Joyce Brown sent a letter. I assume everybody had a moment to read it. You guys better read it.
I don't know if y'all remember, but the first one we did this as well, because it went over so well.
That's this for the CDBG.
Those are expiring soon.
And unfortunately, that program has been Xed.
So
And
it'll be going away.
it will be going away.
As of September 30th, right, fiscal year?
I think that's what September 30th. I think you're right,
Thursday,
Scott.
right?
That was part of the Region 12, and I'd heard that they were going to, and
Yeah, that's when we sent the letters in regard to.
yeah, they've decided to do more of a group situation instead of a,
Instead of regional, it was gonna be statewide, maybe.
yeah. So unfortunately, I think it was doing good for the communities, keeping some of the homes up to date, keeping their tax rolls up a little bit. We'll see where it goes from here.
I will approve revising of the number of projects.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second to revise the number of projects from 5 to 10. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Approve draw number 2. So we're looking to draw some more funds. What to do is the $8,350. That's the draw.
And once again, that's basically a pass through.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion, we approve draw number 2.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
I think that's what you signed in the week.
While I'm signing these, you guys can start looking. The next item is to approve payables. If you want to start looking at those.
I had one question. I've kind of got that answer, or Courtney's gonna check into it more for me. Otherwise, I didn't see any questions on the payables. I would make a motion to approve the payables. Unless someone else has something.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approve the plats. And did you guys see, Sarah did send in an aerial view for one of the plats this morning for the Neobach. The map, so you guys. can see.
I looked it up this. Myself.
We have 2, correct? I wanna make sure.
Yep.
They're for Rick Helder and Neobach.
I will make a motion to approve the plats. Two.
I'll second that. There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Item number 5 is to approve the 28E agreement with the Rolling Hills Community Service Region. And Rich, if you want to kind of give us a little bit more information.
Yeah, the region is looking to redo the 28E, and the basics of it is the county of record for employment. There's been a lot of discussion about this, and there's also an MOU. The regional money will be used to pay each county back. Now, I'm not sure how that fund is going to work because we're supposed to close Fund 10, which is mental health. So I don't know how the region gets the money to the counties to cover that employee because they have workman's comp, they have insurance, they have lots of things that they're covered through the county that they are employed in. A couple of the counties have concern of that they are sitting like at 98 or 99 employees. When you hit the 100 mark, you're in a different set of rules with ICAP. You're in a different set of rules with your insurance companies. So they're a little hesitant about passing this, but I think all in all, I think that the counties are going to try to move forward with this. The employees really don't want to, because one county pays differently. They have better vacation, they have better time off. My argument the whole way has been to make regional employees out of these, and we'll develop something to make that work, grandfather them in, and then as we hire new employees, this will eventually take care of itself. Didn't work that way. So I guess I think that most counties will approve this. I can't speak for all of them. I know that Cherokee County is struggling with this, and I think Pocahontas is also struggling with this a little bit because they're ones that are sitting right at that 98, 99 employee. And that this will could put, and they both have them, both have employees. So we don't have any, it really doesn't affect us too much. Like I said, I'd rather we went a different way, but I was outvoted. So that's the way I kind of have to go with the rest of the region and what their thoughts are on it. I would recommend that we go ahead and pass it. I know John, I sent a copy off to him. He wasn't real enthused about it. He had some other changes that he would like to see, but there again with nine counties, I'm not sure that that's ever gonna fly. So.
And I did have a question I had asked. What happens if we don't sign it? What kind of position does it put us in?
I don't think it'll push us into a position where we'll have to take care of mental health on our own, but I don't know.
They were in a different region.
We may wind up in a different region, which our choices are probably going east, which connects us with Dallas and Guthrie and Audubon. And I don't know about going this way is Shelby's in that region, and I think Guthrie and Audubon was that way, if I remember right.
So is it time sensitive? I mean, are we gonna be the first ones to sign this?
I think everybody's gonna see it at their board meeting this week. Everybody's supposed to see it. I think they would like to have it as soon as possible, but if you guys want to think about it and kick it and talk about it more, we certainly can.
I don't know if there's really a need to it.
It's kind of one of those that's, I don't like it, but I think it's the best game we've got right at the moment. Like I said, I wish the state would step forward and say, this is the
So
way it's gonna be,
you're
because
talking
this
about-
region's running different than this region and that region. They're all running differently.
So you're talking like people like Louise. the old
Like
patrol.
Louise was, yes. Now Louise is not working there no more. So we don't, Crawford and Carroll does not have an employee of record. Well, the new person we hired was
How many of these employees are there?
6. That's why I say it wasn't that hard to come up with a regional concept, but Don thought it would.
But it also, this agreement seems like it's cleaning up some of the stuff since the
Yes,
2 new addition of counties.
the 2 new counties. It's also cleaning up assignment of if there's any buildings that are sold,
Mhm.
it cleans it up that we were part of the original. We get a piece of that. Our contributions get paid for first. And then the counties that come in, if they had a 10th or a 5th or whatever participation they had, they would get that back. But we would be first to get paid because we were one of the originals.
And that's what I read in between
Yeah.
them mostly, that was those two changes were also in there.
Yes, and I've been pushing hard for that since I first went on. Was I'm concerned that the taxpayers get a retribution here. If there's anything sold, now the next question is when it's sold, means the state's paying for it now. They'll say, well, maybe say that's ours. So, well, I don't know where that'll fall in. Because we're gonna end up putting a roof on the building next year. That's gonna be used, state funds is gonna pay for our roof on our building.
How can the
So-
state, sit there and say that the property would be theirs, but they want no responsibility for the
Well, you
employees?
know what, and how
They
can
can't
they,
pick and choose. You
how-
gotta pick it
how can
all
they-
or pick nothing.
how can you do that when they haven't done the deed?
I know, and
Well, that's
that's,
true.
these are all questions
The
that
counties hold the
we've
deed.
had out there, and it's like,
Just don't sign the damn thing over to them.
I
Well,
know.
They would find a way.
Huh?
They would find a way, probably can done it.
Yeah, and find a path sometime.
So you said there's only 6 employees at this affects?
See, right now, yeah. It'd be Dawn and Cherokee has 1, Sac has 2. Calhoun has 1. Woodbury has 1.
So these are basically social workers.
The same thing
So
that Louise
advocates.
did, advocates that Louise did, same thing. Louise quit or retired from this and is going to work for the VA.
Is Dawn the only administrator or is there some?
Dawn is the only administrator.
She has no secretarial or nothing?
She gets a little secretarial help from the auditor's office at Buena Vista. She gets a little secretarial help there, to which that is billed to the region also.
Dawn does a lot.
Yeah,
So what about case managers and that type of thing? Where do they want it? Who are the employees?
like,
So like in Sioux City, I mean, they have to have a ton of case managers down there.
Don't the
those
MCOs
buildings?
have those?
what's that?
Aren't
The
those
MC
MCOs?
The
doing that?
MCOs have all those?
Yeah, they MCOs, we don't have them.
So what kind of buildings do we have if we have only?
We
6
have an
employees?
access center in Sioux City.
And who manages, who mans that?
Plains oversees that. Plains area, we have a contract with them to oversee it.
Okay.
And it's a crisis center, which not many people have a crisis.
You
center.
remember, like, what was it, like, jogging my memory, about 3 years ago, you had all the stipulations that every region had to do. You had to have a hotline, you had to have a crisis center, you had to have all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. That's all being housed in
Prior-
one building.
Don't you have some sort of center up in Sac County too?
Yes, at what the old Howard Center is part
So
of it.
who county owns that?
County, no. Yes, the county is on that.
So
The
those
region
are-
owns that.
Region owns
The
that.
region
Oh,
owns that.
regional owns that? Oh,
The region owns that.
And in Vale?
No, we just contract through
Stepping stones.
Stepping Stones. And then what's the Wesco? We do a little work with Wesco. We do also have a little income coming in from Siouxland. That group north, they're sending some people to Woodbury. Well, to Sioux City. Now they're building their own, but it's further north. Our other choices was to, when we looked at this, we could close that one, but we would have wound up getting in a contract with probably Fort Dodge area. Now, I just think it would have been an overload for them, because I think they're contracted with further east too, so. It's kind of a convoluted mess.
Yes, it is.
It really is. That's why I say the state getting in, and I want in, but I don't want all the way in. It's like, you know. And I think maybe Gene and you guys have been around long enough to know that most likely they'll probably try to wiggle their way in.
You can write it on a wall and change in 5 years.
Yeah. So like I say, I think what we're doing is trying to protect the counties that are involved as much as we can right now. Keep the, which that was my question while you were out of the room. You closed Fund 10. But yet BV is gonna have to pay. If you had an employee, how would you, the region would cut you a check? Where would you put that?
I haven't been paying attention to that because we don't have one.
Right.
I don't know. I
That-
don't know if you could do it out of the general fund or not.
That was my question, how that's going to work with them. Obviously,
Well,
the,
I think that's about the only way to work, because there's no Fund 10.
I mean, you could set up a separate general, you know, we have 0001, that's our general, and then we have 0006, that's a general, but it's where our recovery money is at. So it's a special other general fund. You could probably create another general fund. Kind of like we did for case management when we took that on. We
Yeah.
kept it separate. And my concern is, yeah, we closed Fund 10. Paid out what we had, but there could be delinquent taxes that come in that we would still owe. So then that's going to require a budget amendment. And I don't know how, because that money will be in Fund 10. Can we put it back up to cut the check to the region? Or
those have been, you don't have to.
we're not talking big dollars. And I think somebody said, if it's not significant monies, don't worry about it. So if you're talking a couple $100, is that not significant? If you get up in the thousands of dollars, is
Yeah.
that significant?
Where
Who
is
makes that call?
I
significant?
think when you do that, you check with the auditors.
So what I'm gonna do, if that happens to us,
And
is
just sit on it.
get a hold of Carrie
As long as you
Johnson
can.
at the Department of Management, and
Yeah.
ask her,
Yeah.
is this significant? Which, you know, what's your
Is
recommendation?
$10 significant or 10,000 significant?
I will make a motion to approve the 2080 agreement, amended 2080 agreement.
I would second that.
There's been a motion in a second, and then 28, do we have to do roll call? No.
This require a resolution.
This is what they gave me. So,
There's been a motion in a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, there's a place for everyone to sign, so I would ask that around.
Next on the agenda, Courtney, we're supposed to set a public hearing for St. Anthony Regional Hospital tax exempt bonds.
Yes, so the gentleman that was in, I'm not sure how long ago that was. He came up to the office last week and they're still moving forward with this project. And he asked if we could set a public hearing, because I think we have to have two over the course of this whole project. So the first hearing, I haven't gotten any documentation yet from them because the person that's handling this for them was out of the office for vacation. So I told him in order to set the hearing for the 25th of July, I'll have to have that sent to the papers today. So he was supposed to send me the document to publish. I haven't received anything yet. I think we can set the hearing, and if we don't get the documentation today for me to publish it, then next week we'll have to change that. And I made him aware of that as well. This is like the first step in this process to move forward. far as I knew, everybody was kind of on board with doing it, but that's kind of what the public hearing is for too as well. Obviously not proving anything at this time, but at least setting the hearing to get the ball rolling on the project. If he gets me the information today and I can get it off to the papers, the hearing I will propose to be on July 25th at 9:30. And speaking of hearings, this is kind of off topic, but Carrie let me know that they're going to have a hearing for that Landis.
They did reach out.
Yeah, I don't have the date with me, but it's on my desk. So before you leave today, I'll let you know. It's an evening
Evening hearing.
Where's that at? Here?
downstairs in the meeting room down there.
A board of adjustment.
Yes. So totally off topic, but since we're
Okay.
talking about hearings,
No, thank you.
I remember it, but so don't let me forget to
Yeah,
let you know when
just
that is.
either that or send us an email if you would.
Yeah, well, I'll do that.
That way
I'll do
we'll,
that. That way you have it all.
Everybody good with July 25th?
I think that's good.
All right. Next item on the agenda is.
Was there a motion made on
Yeah.
Is there a motion for a
Yeah, we
public-
just need somebody to make a motion to set the hearing for that date and time.
I'll make a motion that we set the public hearing for that at 9:30 on the 25th.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item number 7 is the courthouse cell phone booster quote. Dalton, I assume you're on.
Yeah, I'm here. So I sent everyone the proposal for the courthouse cell phone booster. We received a grant from AT&T to do the first leg of this cell phone booster. We completed that project last week. It extends out where AT&T FirstNet has really nice signal here in the courthouse and over in the jail. The proposal I'm sending is to expand the same system out to meet the needs to cover US Cellular and Verizon services. This will cover the first ground and basement floor of the courthouse and all floors of the new jail. The system is a newer, nice system. I know Jason, when he got quoted through Motorola, I think the system was almost $100,000 to have it extended out to cell phone signal booster. So that first $30,000 that was covered was a blessing through AT&T FirstNet.
And Dalton, how do you guys, so this 27,548, where do you plan on paying that with?
That's why I'm here.
So it's not budgeted?
No, it's not something we really budgeted for. Honestly, I wasn't even planning on getting a cell phone booster, but the $30,000 kind of fell in our lap for getting this upgrade done. So that's kind of why we were asking right now. It wasn't something we really could have planned for.
How many people are complaining about their cell?
Well, anybody uses their cell phone in the courthouse. I mean, I'm on Verizon right now, and I literally cannot get a call in the courthouse.
I remember back. Was you on when it had that ice storm? We spent the nights up here helping. That must have been before your time. We were up here, the supervisor sat in and helped.
In 2010.
Yeah. Anyway, we helped that ice storm up here, and we trying to utilize cell phones too besides. Couldn't get no signal down there whatsoever.
Yeah, and we had an old system was the problem, but they spent probably less than $10,000 on the whole thing. So we kind of got what we paid for there, and it never really worked that great. That was before my time, but just hearing from like Jason sitting behind you, he can attest to that. And I know Carl and Louis both mentioned it too in the past. So
Are these personal cell phones or work cell phones?
both. A lot of us, like me, for instance, I use my personal cell phone for work. It literally blows up all day long. So
There was very spotty for cell phone in the basement prior to the jail construction project. As the jail structure went up, the basement lost all cell phone coverage completely. The only way that anybody was able to make any calls out of the basement was to use Wi-Fi calling. During the response to COVID, Sarah expressed a lot of frustration with, she was doing a lot of things by text message with various people involved with the COVID response. But when she was working in her office in the basement, those messages weren't going out or coming in. Carrie experienced something similar. And for the comm center, the concern for the cell phone coverage was a backup operational consideration for us, because if we lose, phone lines, internet with the courthouse and some sort of a large scale disaster, we would have no ability to back up any of that and have any sort of redundant system to make any sort of phone calls in or out. And so AT&T FirstNet being the first responder network authority system that came out, they had a grant program to do a cell phone booster. We got it funded for the jail at first, and then Dalton and I, working with AT&T and expressing the operational needs of the basement, were able to get them to extend the project with a much larger system than originally planned, and they were able to cover the whole thing with some grant opportunities that they had internally. And so, if I understand it correctly, what Dalton's quote is for is to use the same antenna system outside and inside the building that's already installed, to allow other carriers to work on that system. So anything that's not FirstNet and AT&T, US Cellular, Verizon being the two biggest that they used in our area. We did do some testing for AT&T. Down the hallway and near windows, not much of an issue. You get into the supervisor room here and down into the meeting room downstairs, and that side of the building, when you get close to the jail, it starts blocking a lot of cell phone signal, and signal really suffers.
So Dalton, is this like a software update then? You use the same existing antennas? Is that what I'm hearing?
no, this is all mainly hardware. So, each antenna has its own, basically it points towards the tower and it grabs that signal and it has a certain frequency. So for each provider, you have to have a different part to grab that signal and bring it down. There's a part up top that's on the roof. That's like the antenna that receives the signal, and then downstairs in both places, obviously, where it all feeds to the main system, has some switching upgrades to do. But that's what they need to expand the system out. The people that came out here and installed it, that's kind of why we only got it quoted through them, since they installed the first system. I spent the first day, Zach and I did, walking around the courthouse, helped them run cable. We had to go all the way to the penthouse suite up above the courts just to be able to get the antenna on the roof there. So it was quite a lot of work just to get it to where we are now. But this should be a lot more minimal than before and get done a lot faster. So, but it's nice to know what they're doing. So.
Hard to believe 55 feet from our east door is a Verizon tower.
Yeah, and honestly, we almost need a Faraday cage because it's it's kind of a round signal, so we're right in the bottom of it.
Yeah, it's going over the top of it.
Yeah, it's called the shadow of the tower. It's pretty common with cell phone propagation and radio propagation.
So are there amplifiers throughout the courthouse with this then, or what?
Yeah, there's already antennas and a module that works on the FirstNet. It's about the bands that are used, I believe.
Isn't one of these located in the corner of the auditor's office up there?
There is one on the first floor, but not in the auditor's office. But they're kind of like access points, like you would get Wi-Fi, where they have these devices on every floor. So they have these access points on every floor of the jail and then at every floor of the courthouse right now. Now those, they won't have to put new ones in. They can use the same ones since it just rebroadcasts the cell phone signal.
Well, I've got full bars on my
Somebody's
phone.
playing
right
Mario
now.
Brothers.
I've never had any issues with my phone working unless I was in the basement. When I'm in the basement, it doesn't work.
Most of the internal antennas are ground floor and basement
US Cellular,
So it's been-
and the jail.
the
The
first
person
one.
inside, yes. So that was covered
I
by.
have 3 bars right
That was
now.
covered at no cost to the
Mhm.
county by AT&T.
So my question about paying for this, and I don't know if we can do this, since this affects really your area, environmental services. Can we pull from different budgets to help cover this?
Well, comp center and environmental health, they're both general, basic,
Okay,
so it'd be coming from the same.
same, okay.
And what the coverage provided by the grant would fit all of our needs. So I couldn't really make like a justifiable argument to use 911 funds here.
Okay.
It just wouldn't be within code.
So what you're saying is that we got a $30,000 grant. And we got a $27,000 expenditure, is that correct? So
We
it's
got
gonna
it,
cover that?
Mm-mm.
This is on top of the grant.
And that's in time
Yeah.
to-
The first grant takes care of,
The first thing we did.
first,
Yeah.
It's taken care of. If
Gotcha.
you do nothing else, it's still gonna work and it's paid for in full. This is adding additional cell phone carriers.
But we would own this, Dalton, right? Instead of paying a monthly service fee or a service contract.
Yeah, this isn't a monthly thing. This is its own system that it boosts itself and everything. But there are systems that do take SIM cards and rebroadcast the signal. Then you would have to, obviously pay that monthly fee. But nope, we're just rebroadcast the signal. That's it.
no other charges like software charges or up the annual updates?
No.
The original cell phone booster that used to be in operation, I think, in the ground floor in the basement. We had that evaluated a couple of years ago, and it was technology that no longer supported the signals that are currently being used by cell phones, which is why it quit working. It's because cell phones began upgraded and working more. I asked for quotes a while back. At least one of them was like $100,000 to cover all carriers.
I do feel it's worth mentioning too. Speaking of forward expandability, this system that we did get here also supports 5G. Carroll County hasn't launched 5G yet, but when they do, it'll also expand the 5G network. So we did leave room for forward expandability.
Good. So you don't foresee any issues down the road in the near future?
No, I'm trying to protect our investment, so we made sure to get the 5G one.
Well, I know from firsthand experience that when we had that ice storm, we could not utilize our cell phones down there, and it was a mess.
Problem.
I wanted to use a stronger language, but I better not.
I already did that. It's funny because I think every one of you called me and I've had to, hold on, and I'm cutting out until I walk out of the courthouse.
Yeah.
So I got down here in the basement, like I don't have a cell phone signal right now.
So what would you suggest how we pay for this then?
Probably not gonna make any friends, but we have gotta say this the right way. We need to start being careful with doing budget amendments for projects. We have X amount of reserves, and if we knew about this and we budgeted for it, we could have levied for it. But now we're gonna have to pull it from reserves,
A reserve.
which I don't have a problem with, and we can do a budget amendment, but
Or would we be,
if stuff is, if it's critical to get it done and it needs to be done, absolutely.
So
But
you're
if it
saying we're
can
11
wait,
days into the fiscal year.
I've already got
and
3 things I have to amend our budget for, and it's July 11th. So I just want to do better. Let's try to budget.
would it
these
help if we
extra
took it
things.
out of local option?
You could certainly take it out. of local
Would that
option.
help? Or is
There's more in reserves in local option than there is in the general fund. So I guess it's up to you guys to decide how critical it is. If you feel that, you know, this has been going on too long and it's an issue, then let's take care of it. If it can wait, then it can wait, but that's not my decision to make.
How long is this quote good for?
It's a 30-day quote.
And when you say wait, what do you mean by wait?
I mean, wait and budget for it in the next year
Next
when we do our
fiscal year.
budgets. So, I'm
I
not
think it's
trying
time
to
to
be.
get it done.
I think it could be pretty critical. I mean, we had a pretty good storm last night. And, you know, if we get driven back down into the basement again,
Well, I said that night,
You know.
we were down there them 2 nights. We had to walk outside. Use the hall.
And there's been times, you know, Jason and I have had where we've had to take 911 operations down for upgrades. We've used burner cell phones. Burner cell phones won't work in the basement right now, that's for sure. So they would literally have to move their comm center to somewhere else because of that when we do, you know, have some sort of outage in the comm center network.
is this something that you anticipated? You know, I mean, is there a way that we could have probably budgeted for this? You know, I get our
Well, we know they
auditor's
don't
point.
work for how many years?
I
That's
think-
my question.
Well, you know, the money just came up though. So that $30,000 grant came out of nowhere. And that was kind of like where this came from. You know, we jumped on the opportunity to save that $30,000 just by eating that. If we eat the 27, you know, where we could have been spending 60 to 70 grand just to get a cell phone expander and front that whole cost. So we jumped on the opportunity. It wasn't really something we could plan for. And I guess we're just trying to get it upgraded. Now, I do agree, if you want to wait a year, that's not hurt anything. I mean, we can always expand it out in a year and rebudget for it. It's just, we're not gonna have cell phone till then. So just something.
We're not gonna have, and we're not gonna have the 30,000, or we are.
So that's already paid for, being paid for and installed.
The first net part of that.
Yeah.
The first
It's done.
Yep, that's right.
And, you know, for my part, you know, when we investigated before and it was looking like it was such a large $100,000 project. I guess you know, my thought at the time was that's really a lot of money to do what this would do. The FirstNet grant thing came up relatively quickly. I first learned about it from the FirstNet representative. They were talking with Dalton about the same time at the APCO conference this spring. So that was first part of March, I think, or April. So, you know,
I'm not thinking having a cell phone is pretty important nowadays.
And yeah, and Jason and I had talked about it before. It wasn't really something that I could ever justify budgeting that much money for. Because I'd have to sacrifice something where I have a lot more important network equipment internally that I have to be putting money towards.
Well, I think we ought to go ahead with it. I think it's not gonna get, and you got an opportunity to use the one with 30,000. I know it's not probably the right thing to do budget wise, but things come up.
Well, and one way to look at it is this quote will probably be more.
It'll be 20% higher.
So there's that too.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and authorize this and take it out of local option funds.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? I think only my comment would be, I think this needs to happen, but I think going forward, we need to be very cognizant of the money we're spending. We need to start pulling in the reins and saying no, because we've got a big project coming up. And I was going to ask that question, Dalton, with this HVAC remodel, if it happens, if the bids come in within reason, will this affect it at all? Would it be wise to wait?
Well, the problem is, I would have to find a company that would even like service the system. So that would be the only hard part. You know, this is a specialized system that they set up. It's, you know, some sort of self-I quadra. So we just have to look for another vendor at that point. So that would be the only problem.
Just
You
don't
know,
want to put in new equipment and then have it to be removed because of remodel and then reinstalled.
100% agree. Where it's at, Steph, it's not really with any other network equipment. And during the remodel, it'd be one of those things where kind of like the door system, they're not going to touch. But I've had this discussion with Bluestone about this.
Okay, good.
But there is a lot of other cables and stuff that they are planning on pulling and replacing. So I agree. It will be a big project. So.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right,
you know,
next.
I will make a comment, you know, I understand what Courtney's saying and what the auditors say, but we got to remember, you got to have a hell of a crystal ball to predict everything that's going to happen 18 months from the time you do a budget.
Agreed. There's always something.
I mean, it's, we do our best, but there's things come up.
All right, next item on the agenda is manure management annual updates. And I hope I pronounced this right. Ryan Shell, Section 6, Nice Township, added acres, crop rotation, and or optimum yields, and P index update. Clayburg Site, Section 31, Union Township, no changes. Jason and Nathan Nealand, Section 32, Nice Township, no changes. N&M Farms 2, Section 28, Arcadia Township, no changes. Wheatland 15, Section 15, Wheatland Township, crop rotation or optimum yields, used manure analysis. Andover Family Farm, Section 32, Newton Township, changed crop rotation or optimum yields. Mike Sybil, Section 25, Washington Township, changed crop rotation or optimum yields, used manure analysis. Schumacher and Sons, number 1, Section 16, Pleasant Valley Township, changed crop rotation or optimum yields, used manure analysis. And Schumacher and Sons, number 2, Section 16, Pleasant Valley Township, changed crop rotation or optimum yields, used manure analysis. And now we are to item number 9, committee reports. Anybody wants to go first?
I'll go first. On the 5th,
Nobody knows.
attended the CADC meeting. Wasn't nothing earth shattering there. Just we had a presentation that was very interesting. And on Thursday, the 7th, when I had Region 12, and that was the executive board and also the policy council. Steph and Scott were there for that part. During the executive board, we had a presentation to purchase some property, and we had a lengthy discussion about that. Right now, we are waiting for that particular party to give us a formal presentation of some exact
Farm ground or?
farm ground, some exact numbers, some exact contract. We didn't want to approve anything or continue the discussion for anything else at that particular time. So that is kind of still out there in the wind.
Another one of those deals where like you buy it and turn it over to the city?
Similar, yeah, similar. Yeah, very similar to that, Scott. It's
Carroll County or?
no, it's not even in our county. It's in Sac County. That's where it's at. And that conversation will continue for a while. We didn't say no, but we didn't say yes. There was some concerns about, like I said, the contract length, the contract, how things were paid back. All those things were under.
Okay.
So that really didn't go too far. So then during the policy council, that was pretty straightforward. There were some things that stuck out. The CDBG block grant, that's can stop. And that was kind of disheartening. Like I said, I think all in all, it's been a pretty good program.
Yeah.
And I was kind of glad the county took it over to kind of get things going. Just to go back a little bit, the Wall Lake housing project that was done for the fourplex, that was designed to get people to move out of their 4 square homes in Wall Lake and move into these and then free up the homes for other people to purchase. Not one of the people living in that are from Wall Lake. Now, they maybe freed up another community, but it didn't work there because no one wanted to. The one in Glidden, on the other hand, has worked out pretty good in our favor. That actually came in underneath budget. It came in at 618,000. They estimated at 650 before they were done. So that came out pretty good for them. They've got had some interested parties that put Peace Lutheran Charities put in 150. So there was a lot of collaboration on this one. So this worked out really well. We're trying to look at one in Panora, and we're trying to look at one maybe in Guthrie. The Panora one is just having trouble getting itself off the ground.
So those rental units,
Yeah. And it's kind of was a reach, but
But basically you're going into, and I don't want to say revitalizing, but you are taking existing property and renovating it.
and renovating it or putting something on it. The ones in Jefferson, where we put that housing project, we put prisoner built homes. There was 2 of them that went in there, and then there was 2 homes that the city, the COG, the bank, and another entity all got into, and they basically did 4 new houses in there, revitalized the whole neighborhood. They're all within 200 feet of each other. So that worked out real well. That made that whole area a lot more viable, but raised the value of that area. And that's what some of those programs are designed to do. Upcoming, I have nothing in front of me this week. I will be out of town a couple of days. That's all I have.
I can go next. My phone's in the car, so I guess I'm gonna have to kind
Wing it.
of wing it here a little bit. Amazing how you depend on those things.
Yeah.
So we had the 911 meeting on what day was that? Yeah, that sounds about right. And so maybe since you're here, you can explain just exactly what we did there. Briefly.
Sure. What we call the call processing equipment, the CPE of the comm center is the phone system that's unique to the comm center. It aggregates the 911 lines as well as the county and police department lines into one graphical user interface computer where we receive all of our calls on. That piece of equipment, the servers and everything associated with it is 7 to 8 years old. IT equipment we try to replace every 5 years, so we kind of hasn't been giving us any problems. And we had the radio project that was kind of taking all the oxygen out of the room, so we're taking care of that. And so now it's time to take care of this. And so we had received a couple of quotes to replace that system. There was basically 2 options on the table. One was through Zetron and Raycom, which was part of what's called state shared services, where the state covers the server piece, and that's hosted remotely in the state data center. And then we have the remote side, which has the computers and a smaller backroom equipment footprint. And so that was one option. And then the other option was a completely standalone, our own system that would have been provided by Motorola. The cost discrepancy for the county's cost or 911's cost, 911 service board was much less for the state shared services. And it also allows us a number of backup opportunities that we couldn't get on our own shared or our own standalone system outside of that state shared services program. And so we opted to approve the program to go with the state shared services. And so that allows us a couple of things. Any communication center that's got both an ISTIC radio console and a state shared services call taking equipment. We could, in theory, pick up and move our operations to that center if we needed to do so for an emergency, if we had a catastrophic failure at our center or something. With the state shared services, they offer a secondary connection for all our 911 lines that we don't get if we're not part of that program and some other various things. So that was the main purpose of our meeting, was to get that approved before the end of June. They did renew that contract beginning in July, but the cost of everything went up, which is why we wanted to get our project in under the wire there before that new contract started with the states.
Thanks, Jason. So then, the cost then, the big thing that I was concerned about is that the cost of the Motorola system was $280,000, and it was similar from Raycom. However, there was actually funding coming from the state for the Raycom system and not for the Motorola system.
The state and
So, yeah,
county expenses were more than the standalone, but because the state picks up so much of that cost, the cost was, I think, 70,000.
yeah. So it came down considerably, of which Jason had budgeted, so we were in good shape. It was a good thing. They had that meeting on the 29th. Didn't have anything more that week, except for the fact that we were moving public health department to the Fricky building into the jail. A lot of stuff got moved. Trailers full of stuff. One of the surprising things, and I'll just bring this up, is that there were, once they got into seeing what they had stored, there were 400 of the N95 masks that were dated back to 2003. So they had been sitting in there during the whole pandemic, and we were trying to get those. And we had 400 of them. And so, which was a little bit surprising. We were going to move those, and St. Anthony asked if they could have them, and so we just gave them back to them. So, but everything got moved. There's a lot of stuff down there in the old jail. All the refrigerators and everything went over to the Fricky building. There was a lot of shelving that was purchased through the coalition. There's going to be signage that will go up that was paid for by the coalition. I think everything's looking good as far as that is concerned at this time. So I guess that's pretty much it. There's been some, I had phone calls with the executive branch or executive committee of the North Raccoon River Management Coalition. And we over the meeting that we'll be having this week on the 15th out at the Ed Center. That thing is really shaping up into something that I think is really going to be good. I think there's going to be some things happening there as far as bank stabilization of the Raccoon River, as far as a lot of processes that will probably be starting as far as nutrient reduction. I think there's a lot of parties that were considered opposition at one time are now trying to partner and try to move forward together. So I think there's a lot of good things going to be coming down the pike on that. Tonight I have a conservation board meeting, and so that's what I have this week. Conservation board meeting tonight, and the Raccoon River Water Management Coalition meeting on Friday.
Dean, that as you go through the Raccoon River stabilization, the banks, that piece of north of Coon on that curve where the creek comes
That's
against
middle
that.
Coon.
Yes, the middle Coon. If you ever get a chance to maybe possibly straighten that, it would
They won't
probably
let you.
it'd be beneficial to the county.
No.
Tried that.
I'll let you straighten it.
Well, there's new people around,
Can't touch the natural flow of water.
new kids on the block.
Well,
Rick, we tried that with, because that's a horseshoe bend. It's a natural habitat rebreeding area for 'em. We tried it, because if you look at an
For the
area,
silver spawns?
you could cut it.
80 feet,
Is that
100
fish called the
feet.
silver?
Yeah, you can cut a trench there so easy.
Yeah.
We had Garcia
You know
agreed
what
to let us do it.
I know. But just with new kids on the block, it's
Well-
worth the spin.
Well, I mean, that's
Because-
that's another discussion that can be having, and I have this with the DNR, with Kyle. I meant, I'll be at every meeting that I go to that he's at, and he'll be there on Friday. And that is to get something going with the Middle and South Raccoon. We have over 10 years ago, a water management authority was formed, but it was never funded to get a plan. And so if we could do that, and he's encouraging it. The thing about it is that we've got to get all the players in place. And I know that Dallas County I know that Mark Hansen's interested in doing something. I know that the Lake Panorama Association is interested in doing something. So yeah, I think if there's support for that, I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's great.
It's just, to me, it's, I understand their side of it, but they're so blockheaded that they won't even look at the other side of it is because if that road erodes out, you're gonna lose fire protection, you're gonna lose ambulance protection, law enforcement protection until that's solved.
Yeah,
So,
We're talking on the county road that goes north out of.
yeah, right where that curve is, that
sure.
cuts into that bank and it's a constant fight. And literally, you can go up there in 100 feet and you could straighten and lose that corner. That
It's
corner
and
would
you know
never be
what?
a problem.
It wouldn't take much to do it.
No, I don't, wouldn't take much at all.
Except an act of God.
An act of God. Yeah, Dean's exactly correct. But
Because yeah, I mean, Stephanie is correct that you cannot alter
Yep.
the flow of a natural body of water.
and I have heard that so many times, but yet I see 4-lane roads built all over the place that change the flow of water.
Well, somewhat. I don't know if they really completely redirect it, but I see what you're
There's
saying.
another way to do
Now,
it. It happened out in
Sure.
south of town.
just do it.
Well, it happened south of Audubon.
Don't tell them.
Happened south of Audubon where it was actually going to,
Put the
I bet it
trail.
was in Nishnabotna, was going into the trail.
It
Yeah.
dropped the trail there on 71 by
Yeah.
Zyra.
Yeah, south of Exire.
It dropped.
And, yep, and so, I mean, they're not, they could have easily cut that inside bank and changed the flow of that water, but they can't. do it.
Just enough.
Anyway,
All right.
very good.
Last week, Stephanie and Rich and I had Region 12 Thursday night. Rich went over the details pretty good on that. Tomorrow morning, I have the landfill executive board.
Yep.
That's
Okay, back on the 30th, I had a new opportunities board meeting. We accepted financials, accepted the 990 for the year, made amendments to our CSBG grants, and also did approve a CH grant carryover submission of $248,000 to carry over and use for the next year. Went through all the policy counts or Head Start reports. Everything was good there. We did approve the purchase of a new vehicle, a 2022 Prius. We had a short discussion in regard to possibly changing the sign out in front of the place. It's set in the middle of the parking lot, and we may look at changing that. They did have a training out there for made a plan of action for active shooter. God forbid, but they did put something like that in place for out there. And we did get the state of Iowa license for substance abuse disorder and problem gambling for 3 years. Then also the last week I did the radio and paper. So, and then Tuesday I was at that CADC that he was talking about. They're It was Jordan DeGree was there to give a presentation on ideas, networking, and co-working spaces. And next week, supposedly there's a CADC again. And that's next week. But I was supposed to have a Yes Center board meeting this Friday, and I got shifted to next week also. That's my week.
Mine will be quick, Region 12, and that's been covered. And then I have the radio and newspaper, and I will not be here next week.
There's a good possibility I'm not gonna be there.
Do you have radio and newspaper this week?
Yes.
And Jean, what did you have coming up this week?
Really, I don't have anything right now, just.
We'll let you know that just Courtney's phone calls. So it'll be.
We're gonna represent the county in
Yeah,
public forum. It's great.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, I'll be working on the agenda on Thursday.
All right, next item on the agenda, now the committee reports are done. We're gonna meet with SCH here for a little bit and go over some bullet points to discuss the courthouse HVAC remodel project.
Sure.
Morning, John.
Good morning.
Oh, real quick. Did you reach out to anybody about the town hall meeting?
Yeah, I did, and I talked to both of them from Mount Carmel and Maple River. It's, I left it kind of up to them as to what dates, and they said, nah, just come up with a date.
Okay.
But it might be better to do it towards fall. when the kids are in school, so that you'll have more, be able to get more attendance, because people are on vacation and doing.
At least they know we're discussing. it.
Yeah, they know we're discussing it.
Thank you.
And I got some comments too.
One more thing, Courtney, I'm gonna grab the road to the side today.
Time to talk about your favorite project.
That's right. You have the
All right.
floor.
Good deal. With the courthouse HVAC and selected improvements, we are running about 95% complete with the construction documents. So that includes the drawings and then also the specifications for the products. But with that said, a lot of the focus was
50% under.
50% under budget, a couple months ahead of schedule.
That's good.
Wow.
Just kidding. on
Get
that one.
something I can prop my feet up on.
But we're right on schedule, I think. And I think the project has been tracking cost estimate wise. I just got a recent update, which I'll share with you as soon as I get all that package together where we're at. But the intentions are to get you some drawings to look at probably after the meeting today, before they go out to bid, just so you can kind of have a final look through them. On the 30th, we kind of put our pencils down and took a little bit of a break. Printed the drawings, got the estimate started, things of that nature. So with that said, I think one big component of the project that I'm working on wrapping up is the bid phase. So putting bid documents together, that's division 0. That's the first thing in the project manual. Tells the contractors how to bid the project, what to include in their bids, when the project's going to bid, the date, insurance requirements, list goes on and on. So I'm putting those things together. So we had talked about in the past, when should we put the project up to bid? And I think we were shooting for, maybe August, maybe September, kind of, putting the final polish on when we want to do that. I did talk to a local general contractor on the phone at pretty great length. What I received from him was there's not a real, how do you say it? There's no difference between August and September than he saw it really. So either of those months would likely be fine. It's just a matter of when do we feel comfortable, when we finally have everything completed, So, I think in my mind, it's looking towards bidding maybe in August at some point. And if it's a month from now, that would put it to today's date's 12th, I believe, so 11th. So maybe, right around that mid-August into late August. just wrapping up some loose ends on that, and getting the bid package together. I know I did send over some insurance, information that I'd like to get back from the county in terms of what's required during construction, what the county carries, what the contractor will need to carry. I know you're looking into that. So,
I forwarded it off. I did speak to our insurance guy and he said, we should handle it like we handled the jail.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't really know how we handled that because that wasn't part of my scope of work.
Yeah.
But, so,
We could talk about that a little later if you have time.
You know, what you can do is if you have the project manual for the jail, you could probably get the insurance requirements right out of that, John. It'll be listed in the project manual.
Right.
Project.
So, yeah, presuming it's, we have the manual, we can just get that out of the jail. I'll kind of look that over. So, no worries there. So one other thing, besides the kind of front end bid requirements that we'd like to talk about, I think, and Tom can jump in here. I think we have some information back from IT regarding the board meeting room, audio visual pieces and parts. We also talked about emergency communications, how to keep them operational 24 hours a day during construction. So we kind of talked about that as a group in the past, and we thought, well, maybe moving the dispatcher consoles over to the north room, north of the emergency communications center would be the answer for that issue. And I think that with that comes some concerns that we weren't really, fully aware of, that I think Jason brought up in terms of actually moving some of that equipment that we'd like to discuss. And Tom, I think there's a third thing that's escaping my mind right now.
The whole issue with the replacement of the network.
Oh,
cable.
network cable.
Yeah, and then just what's plumbing rated and non-plumbing rated in terms of all the low voltage wiring. So, get into that.
We'll let you into the conversation. So with that said, I think maybe we just start off on the first one. Do you want to talk about the AV? Is there anything to discuss regarding AV for the boardroom? I know you got a list of equipment from IT.
Right, I think we've incorporated all the comments into the design. There's cameras, monitors, all those features. It'd be something to be easier to probably go through visually if we had plans, but I think that what we're planning on doing is getting a meeting set up with Zach and I think it's Dalton, I'm sorry, Dalton, to kind of go through the plans and do a page turn on the mechanical and electrical and technology components. And are you Justin? Jason. And Jason, I think you're the other person I think we need to get involved as well. Yeah, and so I'm in the process of getting that organized. We were going to do it here a couple of weeks back and then figured, well, let's just wrap up the drawings to 95% CDs and then do a page turn at that point, go through, make sure everybody's comfortable with what we did, especially Zach, since he's going to have to maintain it. And then go through all that. And then at that point in time, we're going to walk through to make sure we got all the parts and pieces addressed in the boardroom. So that piece is pretty well incorporated into our design. Toward the end, one of the things that we noticed, okay, so above your ceiling, you've got a whole spaghetti, like a whole, a bunch of wire, basically. You got security wiring, you got CCTV wiring, you got fire alarm wiring, you've got your network cabling. You've got a lot of other stuff that's just installed free air above the ceiling. Now, some of this cable has got what's called a plenum rated sheath on it, which means that it can, like during a fire, it'll not emit like noxious gases. Other cable up there has non-plenum rated sheathing, which means that when it ignites, it'll actually give off noxious gases. So the code requires us to put non-plenum cable in a raceway, like a conduit, if it's in if your above ceiling is being used for like return air, like open air return air, like, in your house, when you bring the air back to the furnace or those grills that are sitting up high. Well, it's usually going down in joist space, and that joist space is then called a plenum space because there's air going through it. Right now, everything is ducted in this building. So when we did the HVAC design, we assumed we weren't going to be replacing like all the security cabling and all that. So we ducted all the return air, so the plenum is not an air plenum. So you can put non-plenum rated cable up there. And that's fine. So everything we've done so far is good because we have to put that return, to add a little bit of cost to the project from the DD estimate. We're still kind of trying to update that because there was some additional sheet metal that we had to add when we found out that there was what the cable consisted of up there. So we have that piece of it. Now, the Dalton had asked that we look at replacing, as we're designing this project, the intent was to replace network cabling only in the areas that were getting substantially remodeled, like the assessor's office or the treasurer's office. And so we pull in new network cabling, so that's updated, but we weren't planning on wholesale replacing all the cabling in the building. And, we're putting in new Wi-Fi routers and all that type of stuff. Dalton had mentioned that a lot of the cabling in the building is like 20 plus years old, and he would prefer that we replace all the cabling, which is a little bit of additional scope on our end because we'd have to come back and verify where all these drops are in areas that weren't really touching, like the second floor and some of those, primarily the second floor. And so that was just something that right toward the end there, Vinny took over for Jason, kind of found that out. And so we told Dalton, it's like, well, let's bring it up to the Board of Supervisors, find out how they want us to address it. If we want to do it as an alternate and see what the additional cost would be, on bid day, or how we want to address that.
Yeah, and part of the problem is a lot of that cable that's running, it's running in the areas you're replacing the HVAC, but it's taking that route and going through the HVAC area to the second floor. So how do you go about not replacing it is my question. If if it's old cable,
Right. Well, and then some of it, we were like, some of the risers we weren't planning on touching. We're only going to be removing the horizontal cabling for the areas that were impacted. But you're right. You're going to be exposing all that, but we weren't necessarily going to remove it all. Kind of like when we drop the ceilings, we're gonna, the fire alarm cabling is all getting replaced because we're extending the fire alarm system from the jail into this building and eliminating the one in here. So all that cabling is being replaced. The only cabling that we don't have a lot of control over is like the access control, security, CCTV, some of which is plenum rated. Well, it doesn't matter if it's plenum or non-plenum because, like I said, we kind of address that with the HVAC system. So the only piece we would have left would be the network cabling that's in areas that we're not touching, primarily second floor. And we can show that and then break that out as a separate cost as an alternate. So you guys can see on bid day what that additional cost would be and make a decision on whether or not that's going to be incorporated into the project. Would that be acceptable, I guess, to you guys?
I'm fine with the alternate.
Yeah,
I do too.
yeah. I think this project's gonna push our limits to begin with. And I think the alternates might be an avenue to eliminate right away if we have to. Now, with that alternate, are you looking at the removing of all the other cables that are not of any value in there?
We didn't explicitly say that, but I can add that to our demo
Because
plans. to
there
make sure
will, there will be 25 pair, the old 25 pair telco
Right,
that-
right.
not being used of any kind, that is a fire hazard, is a problem. While we're there, if you're going to be in that path, just the removal of it. Now, the question is that we have to be 100% sure we're not using it for
Yeah.
any,
Some of it's
any,
used for fax, is
for anything.
Yeah.
So
What was that, Dalton?
facts.
some of those old lines are used for like fax is the only thing really you're using them for.
But
Everything else that runs down to like the comm center, the phone system, so.
Do you guys have voice over IP here, or is it just a
Yes.
separate? Okay.
We have on-prem server for that.
So all the old Cat 3 25 pair cable, outside of having an analog line for fax, you can deal with that. That's really not being used for anything outside of fax. How about like your security dialer and all that type of stuff, Dalton?
That's also on analog, but that's downstairs right where the line comes in for the phone system.
How easy would it be for you to identify like what trunks we can remove and what trunks we need to keep?
We've actually got a quote through our current phone provider for that before. It's something we need to do to get rid of the old junk. It's not an easy task. It's bad.
Well, here's the one benefit we have is we're dropping a lot of the ceilings in the basement, ground, and first floor. So when we drop those ceilings, we're gonna have a lot easier, you'll be a lot more visibility. You can see what's up there. The problem is because we can't see what's up there right now, it's very hard to quantify
exactly.
the nature of what we're up against. So what I would suggest is that maybe we throw an allowance at it, perhaps. And then just have something earmarked for demolition and then kind of address the scope as we kind of get to it, because we're really not going to know what that scope is until after the ceilings get dropped. And then we have well, hopefully that issue gets less and less as you go up through the building. Dalton, do you have any clear idea of what the courthouse, like the second floor, the courtroom areas look like from a cabling standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, it's just all pretty old cable and ran together because when we expanded the voice over IP system up there, probably 6-7 years ago, they ran some cables up there to get to our network. So that's all new. Now I can't really speak on the behalf of the other cable because it goes it goes to the court rack, which is located on that second floor, and that's not our responsibility. We're not gonna touch any of that.
Okay. Well, so I think what we'll do is from a demo standpoint, I think we can address that with an allowance. From a new install standpoint, primarily up in the courthouse, I think we can break that out as an alternate. I think Vinny would need to come back and do a little bit more digging to kind of with Dalton to kind of identify.
My point is that more becomes more
Oh,
and then becomes more.
right.
And then pretty soon you don't have any clue like what is really going on there.
Right.
It
Right.
makes it hard on maintenance.
It does. So I think what we can do is we'll clean up what we can within the limits that we have. The only floor that concerns me a little bit is again, the second floor, because we're only doing a partial demo of the ceiling up there. So
We're doing a good majority of this.
Oh, yeah.
Except for the courtroom.
except for the
Yeah.
courtrooms, which are,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think we can identify that and break it out in such a fashion that you guys have control. You can expose the cost and have some control on how you take action with regards to that. So. Okay, so that was the one big issue. The second big issue goes to the 911 area. And we did a little bit more digging in the last couple of weeks in July to kind of really, because there was just some concern that we didn't have enough information. And so we finally got in touch with you, Vinny did, and we kind of sat down, and that moving that room, I think I think moving that room, I think, is problematic. Would that probably be an understatement?
Well, I wouldn't say it's problematic. I would say it takes careful planning. I'm confident we could move into that room. There's a couple of questions that I was asking Benny that he didn't really have the answer to, and that led to a conversation with Steph. And, I think that the most important thing for me to be able to help plan on what that might look like and what we would do would be to know, is that a permanent change? Are we looking to move the communication center, say, into where the voting storage is at today as a going concern from now on? Or is that a temporary space that we would be using as part of the overall project? And if it's a temporary space, then where does the comm center land at some point in the future? Because the space that we have dictates, I'm gonna have to buy, 911 would have to buy new console furniture, which what we have is over 20 years old today. It's needed anyhow. But I need to be able to plan for where we would be, the final location would be, so that the furniture is sized appropriately for both our operational needs and the space where we would be putting it in the future. Spoke on numerous occasions back to the Communications Commission and to you guys that, we really need to add a third position, not necessarily to occupy all the time, but as a backup and for overflow traffic. This morning, we could have filled all 3 positions and 3 people would have been busy for a couple of hours. As it was when the storm blew through, one dispatcher came in, another one followed, and we had a dispatcher working off of a portable and trying to do things over the top of somebody's shoulders once in a while. So there's that concern, and then any sort of future consolidation concerns or more space to add a 4th council position in the future. So
How hard is it to do it where it's at right now? Leave it.
You know what, the primary thing that we would need to address is how we upgrade the HVAC in there while the room is still occupied. Sure. So that being said, I'm confident that was kind of the primary reason we thought of moving it, was just to get a new space set up and move it. And then that would allow us to have free range. In the demo, we already have the new space set up. It was just kind of more of a stepping stone. Now, push comes to shove, it wouldn't, it would be a little bit more difficult to deal with just from a phasing standpoint, but it can be done.
Well, my point is that moving that console's probably is not a cheap issue, and then you're down. Are you gonna be down totally then when you do that?
no, we would. I'm confident that I can plan how that happens. We shut the entire comm center down and operate out of Green County for a couple of hours when we get the generator switch. So there's things we can do to bridge a short-term gap, a long-term gap.
So
If we had to move a dispatch console, I'd move them one at a time, so we'd always keep one operational. There's even a possibility, for just the PCs and things that run, then just the equipment at a console desk wouldn't be that expensive. We were adding a 3rd one anyway. We could buy the equipment and set one up in the other room, and then follow by moving the other 2 at another time to keep everything operational.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that piece of it. I just have to know that's what we're doing and know what the long-term vision is for where the comm center is going to be, so that I can plan it appropriately. And
my point is the cost on this. Is it gonna cost, how much is it gonna cost to move those things? Because you're gonna have to rewire them all, right?
Well, for them, we'd have to assess what's there for electricity now and whether or not we needed additional electrical receptacles. We probably need 2 circuits per position, like 2 20-amp circuits per position. And so we need to look at that, but that's what we need.
Yeah, because
Finally, that's not what we need.
my envision originally was we probably weren't gonna do anything with the comm center down at this time anyway, but with that heating and cooling going into ceilings, what makes the issue?
Let me sit down and talk to Joe and see if we can come up with an alternative plan that can maintain the HVAC in that room. we may do some, because right now it's being served by an air handling unit down in the boiler room, if I'm not mistaken. One of the things I may explore with, one of the things that we could do is just replace that air handling unit with the DX style unit, not a chilled water. And then simply swap the unit out. You still run into an issue where you may have some downtime, but it would be minimal. And then we would just maintain that room as it is today and really not do anything with it outside of just replace with it, how the air is conditioned. And my concern is exactly your concern, is that I think we're going to see some budget pressures, not only from just market conditions right now, which is I've been kind of behind the scenes pushing John a little bit to see if we can kind of like push it closer to the fall, just because I think we'd have more favorable bidding conditions. But the other thing I'm concerned about is that this whole thing with the non-plenum rated cabling and then our reaction to it by ducting all the return air and all the return air and all the fresh air directly to the units, that added some costs, which we're still trying to come to grips with how much cost that added. And so we were looking pretty good up to this point, but I think these kind of spaces are expensive. I mean, if I had to venture a guess, they're like, I mean, for that size space, probably like $500 to $1,000 a square foot to deal with, just simply because of all the technology that goes with them. And then all the concerns with the phasing, because you do have to be kind of careful with the phasing. There's a new furniture components that you'd have to buy that are very specialized.
So let me speak to that though for a moment, because 911 has funds that we have been holding on to for such a project such as this. So as long as we're very responsible in what we purchase, so that we're not throwing good money after bad, 911, Joint 911 Service Board budget can cover some of those expenses. And what the guidelines is we can only spend that money on the receipt and disposition of a 911 call. So from the point where somebody dials the 911 call until we dispatch it, and they go there and they have a disposition. Okay, so that includes dispatch furniture, any wiring that we run, the PCs that run the dispatch console. Those would not be county project expenses necessarily. Those could be 911 Joint Service Board expenses that we could budget for on the 911 side. We just have to know what's going on now. Things that are building related, walls, HVAC, electrical would be a gray area. The other things can't be 911 expenses. The housing of a communication center isn't an allowable expense through the 911 funds. So, there's some options there that we can potentially use. And all of our cabling today is not piped into jacks. It's all cabling that runs through a waste raceway directly from switch or attachment.
So we have a little ways to go, I think, on the discussion for 911. I don't think we're gonna get there today. I think everybody that's pretty fair. So, and you spoke to pushing the bid out a little bit longer. I was mentioning August. Maybe it becomes September.
We're getting into some realm where everything's expensive. Everything is expensive. Way the current climate is right now. I was kind of hoping we could hold the 911 part off, was running on its own, with maybe the exception of maybe adding more space availability to them as they slowly migrated into a new space, they would have some room. But that's where we originally kind of thought maybe environmental health may be coming up higher in the courthouse, and then walling that off, and then you could basically turn that whole area into the 911.
It is it is a nice self-contained project that you can really break out as a separate project.
Yeah.
And there's stuff we can do with this project that will prep the area. So, it'd be, if you identify if that is the area you want to move into, or if there's a separate other area, we can get everything, set up. So it ease it when you decide to kind of break that out as a separate project. Again, it's really more of a decision for you guys in terms of how you want to do it. The funding, that's, is there like a twilight on that funding? Do you have to use it by a certain point, or is it?
No, it's, think of it like more like a checkbook. It's not like that funding goes away when 911 has to budget for it, but anything that they don't budget to use stays in that fund until it's.
Well, I'm kind of getting kind of concerned too, and I think we probably gotta look at our top priorities more so, and we'll do a lot of alternates. Myself, and see what fits in it.
I'll mention too that a major concern I would have operationally about moving the town center into the loading storage bay would be access to the restroom. We'd be increasing the distance between the dispatch console and a restroom facility. And now that makes it operationally very difficult to man the comm center with one person during the time. So we only have one person.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I think too that
it'd be too far away for them to go use the restroom and still.
and put a restroom over the other part with a 4-foot slab is going to be kind of hard.
Let's just
Put
say
a grinder.
let's just say that's not possible.
Well, yeah, anything's possible. Just put a grinder pump, lift it up, and drop it down.
Well, I'm just,
Future discussion, the water wall extends all the way to the kitchen space. So there would be some space to put a bathroom adjacent
If they were
to
ever to expand.
the
it
comm
this
center
way,
at some
not
point.
that way. If they were to expand it.
Well,
it makes
just all
more
the-
sense
all-
to go
is
this
that-
way, not that
So
way.
that larger
All
antenna
this
over
is
on
already
the east side of the building, that's part of the 911.
It is.
Not this way.
You guys ever, is there any option to, use it like the old jail space for some of that function?
I think,
How much of that you can double up?
I think that.
Not all.
Yeah, you're fine. That's a possibility.
there's space that can,
Well, again,
The concern is having the town center in a protected space. That's mostly
Second,
underground.
he's gonna pull my hair on screen.
Common sense would be go that way, not that way. Is anybody
Well,
okay?
either that or like he says, the bathrooms, just leave it where it's at.
that's true,
I too. And you got
I mean,
glass, you can
for
see all the way down the hallway.
right?
well, I guess, you have in the phases of which you're looking at right there.
No, well, they're at, not the jail area. Is there? food? Jail?
Yeah,
there is.
There's bathrooms.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Plumbing all
say,
over,
'cause
there's bathroom. Everybody's got.
But they have to
bathroom.
be,
Yeah,
don't you guys have to be?
well,
on
the
lower level?
bathrooms,
I would say we want the town center in a protected space. The jail is mostly underground when you think about the lay of the land. It's at least got a hill facing it.
But that was the reason it was put.
Tom,
down.
I was looking at, your phased, same thing you were looking at right there. You have dispatch office and then you have phased dispatch office.
Mhm.
And the phased part, I'm assuming would be completed first, that's what it says here. And then you would move, is that what you had in mind?
Right, we would complete, yeah, the whole idea when you do something like a critical area like that, it's kind of like,
Right here.
yeah.
And so I guess my thoughts are the phase dispatch, that would be all completed as far as the ductwork and everything like that. And then you can move. I guess I just wonder how much cost it's going to be to try to work in the dispatch office with them there, as opposed to being able to just move. Have it all completely done, you move, and then you're done. I can't help but think that trying to work with those people, in that space is going to cost more money. It's going to cost more, and probably in manpower. I would think.
John, can you flip this to the base, to the ground floor really quick? This is something we were just kind of exploring here just for a second. If you look at this plan.
It's an old.
There is a restroom in the jail area, right, John? Does your plan show that?
There's a restroom over here.
Well, yeah. it's-
All sorts of restrooms in the jails and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, each cell had its own little, but I don't know if there's one you want to keep and maybe utilize.
But there's plumbing there.
There's plumbing, yeah. for sure.
Well, then
Just wonder
there's
what the
then
noise
issues with
is.
that plumbing too, though.
there's one of the maintenance.
I mean, I think they've had issues with the storms or the sewer line, haven't they?
So I'm just
There's
looking at it from
always
a,
been issues
so there are a couple of things. Yeah. And again, we don't want to, this is just to throw an idea out there that, a lot of your infrastructure that supports 911 comes in over here. There's a data closet that sits right about over here that where everything terminates.
Yes.
And my thought is, the thought about the original plan was just to flip it up over here into that old voting storage area. And the reason that made sense to us is that we wouldn't touch the data. I mean, all that cabling would be still, so you would just be touching whatever was coming out of that room into the 911 area.
I think there's numerous things that are all part of this discussion because Stephanie, you saw it last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? You saw some of the other board members have seen into our data storage area, and it was never meant to be an IT space. It is not really adequate for an IT space. The cooling there right now is the room's running warmer than what it should, which is a concern. And this amount of space around the equipment to work is a problem. So long-term, we need a different solution for an IT space, one that's got, 3 foot of space behind the rack and 4 foot of space in front of the rack to allow proper ventilation, proper space to work, that sort of thing, as well as, but that adds a lot of expense too, because there's so much stuff that comes into the building and terminates. In addition, besides the radio, we have the 911, ICN, phone. There's other things that come into that data space and terminate there. A connection to the city's network over a fiber. I'm sure there's things I'm missing.
So from a funding standpoint with the 911 funds, you said there's limitations on what that can be used for.
Sure.
It has to be directly applicable to the execution of the 911 call.
Equipment, it's not unlimited by any means, but yeah, I mean, it would, moving the equipment, the equipment and the lines could certainly be 911 expenses. But let's say like the cooling of a room, for example, for a server room, I might be able to argue that the cooling is necessary for the equipment and cover that. But then say like HVAC for the space in general, no, that's a building expense. That's housing of the communication center. It would be allowable.
But there is a component of the HVAC that isn't just building. Because you have a base, like 1 CFM a square foot or whatever it is for a typical office building. Then on top of that, you have the additional cooling load required because of the equipment that you guys operate.
Right.
That you need to cool. So there's a
We'd
portion
be
of
in-
that.
we'd be in gray area. I want to be very
Yeah.
careful as we do that project to make sure that we're doing so with, consultation from the state auditor and the state 911 program manager to make sure we're not doing anything improper. This instance, I don't want to beg for forgiveness. I'd rather ask permission.
Yeah, well, so a couple of things to consider that this area over here, is this part of the area we decided to use for swing space?
Yes. Yep.
So this whole, and that's a OWI. area.
OWI.
Yeah, so this area we're really not doing a lot with other than we're using it for swing space during the construction.
And there's
So-
another area up north that's the old, part of the old jail, kind of multi-occupant space. There's also a temp space, and again, this is all ground floor, so if we're talking ground floor, we also have to consider basement, and what does that do in terms of security, safety, things of that nature? What's the difference between being on the ground floor and being in the basement or a comm center?
So one thought that to kind of help this get off that, because it sounds to me that this is a little complicated project, that whole 911 area,
Oh, yeah.
just because of
Oh,
the
yeah.
amount of technology associated with it, just because we have to unravel how the funding works. So we understand that. So one thing I would propose is that I think we can refeed this room pretty easily now that I think about it. I got to talk to Jason about that from an HVAC standpoint, because I think they make an air handling version of a VRF unit that we can put in the boiler room. So we wouldn't have to we would minimize the amount of work we would have to do within the space. I need to talk to Joe about that to see how practical that would be. But assuming we can take care of your space in such a way that we're really minimizing any kind of interruption to what your operation is, then I think we almost need to kind of look at this space, and as a last phase, we maybe shell it, we rip all the walls out, or maybe even as the initial phase, I don't know, John. And then get this set up with the base building HVAC and make sure that's set up. We're going to bring additional power in there probably a little bit anyhow, just for.
Are you saying the comm center space in the future?
Huh?
Are you saying that space?
I'm kind of wondering if this kind of makes sense, because
I would caution only because to the south, we have windows.
Right.
While be it my dispatchers, and I don't blame them, would love to have a window to the outside. For continuity of operations reasons, that may be a bad idea.
Well, I thought that's why you couldn't move in the jail, is because it had to be able to withstand a F5 tornado or whatever.
I think that's why it's where it's at is the best place myself. And then
In the basement.
That or the
Yes.
space up
Yeah.
to the north with the 6.
I think the old jail space would be a potential because it's
Right.
set inside the hillside and it's block wall all the way around.
right.
The basement obviously is it's an old nuclear fallout shelter, so we're relatively sure that space is secure. There is limitations with the ceiling height in the basement. The standard is sit to stand desks for 911 today, and with 2 stacks of monitors, we may be limiting the ability to actually use the standing feature of the desk. I don't know if it would.
So I have a little bit, I have actually quite a bit of experience designing mission critical facilities, and I actually have an expertise in hardened mission critical facilities. So I've designed a lot of facilities that were literally meant to withstand a direct hit from a tornado. And I'll tell you, the one thing I want to caution you against is when we talk about like hardness in terms of your operation, it's not hard, because all your HVAC, all the cooling capacity you have is going to be up on the roof. It'll be gone. Your generator's outside, unprotected, it's gone. So even if your center survives, you've lost all power, you've lost all cooling. So if that's another thing we'd want to dive into, is what does hardened mean in terms of your operation? What is that definition? And where do we, and so again, and again, not to minimize the importance of what you guys, what you need, but I'm kind of wondering from the ability of us to react to this. This in and of itself is a pretty significant project. I think I would suggest that we leave them where they're at, figure out the much smaller problem of how do we refeed the HVAC in there without disrupting their operation, and have that as part of this project, and then take this and just say, I mean, because this is a whole separate deal, and it's frankly, it would really extend this project out quite a bit. And I'm not sure how you would separate the 2 components from a budget standpoint.
Well, I tend to agree with you. Do this to what you need them to their HVAC.
Right.
And then later on, we can move together and then make what they're funding to do their own separate project.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because there may be other funding out there in addition to the 911 that you can tap into. I have to think that, you know, this certainly would qualify from a care, like the COVID money, I guess, from the type of work that you'd be able to complete with that. It's just that and you know what, you may find that you have bid day and you may have money left over that you haven't tapped into, then we can dive it into this, but you don't really have that clarity until you do this part of it. And you know, there's a lot of unknowns with this project that,
But you're saying you think there's a unit you can tap in or without a lot of disruption then?
I'm gonna talk to Joe about that, but I think we can. I think there's a plan B that I think might work a little.
Can you
better.
flip back down to the bottom?
Sure.
Well, I like your original plan right here with, you know, with,
Phasing it into that storage.
But the
room.
problem with that
phase-
is the
phase
restroom
dispatch.
piece, yeah. And that's what
So-
that doesn't provide.
well, it's,
Want to see this first?
No.
No, I want to see the floor down below where the
It's
911,
from-
where it's at the existing. Where it is right now.
I'll throw out my opinion.
These dash lines show.
I mean, it would be
Four
further,
councils can go and stuff.
Show more than
Yeah.
existing.
10 steps,
Gotcha.
15 steps.
It's the difference between being.
So in my
in the middle of the
opinion,
courthouse
if you
and
were ever
the
to
bathroom.
redo this
Bathroom's
space,
currently just
I'm gonna
a
agree
mess.
with you on for two things. One, you mentioned about hardness. Marshalltown's prime example. They were completely wiped. They had to go into Raycom's actual building, the radios
We were a
building.
part of that whole process of.
Half the building was ripped off and they're doing 911 out of that. So you are
Yes.
right.
But it was gas leak that caused them.
Either way, they still were functional. In my opinion, I would say if we ever did anything in the future, go this way, because then it incorporates the bathrooms. You know, we might have to remodel a bathroom, but at least it'd be in, and
Yeah.
then
Mhm.
that would be me thinking futuristic. Obviously, that's not gonna be a part of this project, but if I were to think futuristic, you could incorporate those
Yeah,
bathrooms.
Like part of the
you could
beauty of the
change the phase area.
Well, I mean, that communication where they're at now, they got it, they can see down the hallway too. And they're closer to the bathroom. Cause that, to put a bathroom in the north side, that's gonna be, you're gonna have to pump it up and drop it back
No,
down.
I'm no engineer, but there's the water wall that is behind the current comm center that has the plumbing. There's already a sink in the voter storage comm center kitchen.
But I'm talking about for the sewer
I
itself.
understand, but
That's a 4-foot slab that's sitting on there.
all of the toilets in the basement now are plumbed through the wall, not through the floor. Is that thing.
Yeah, I wonder if they.
Well, You know, I mean, Gene, as far as that's concerned, if you were to move it,
I don't know, volume.
if you were to move it where Stephanie said to this area, I mean, you could put a wall right here and still look down. You know, you
You could utilize.
could
those bathrooms.
utilize that more of that hallway,
Exactly.
you know, and do that.
If I was gonna phase this, I would consider this as phase X and done at a later date. I would look at doing this office in the existing form in our heating and cooling plan now. Everything else I would leave in a whole separate phase for another time.
So what are you gonna
The
do? with
beauty
people that are
about
there?
a VRF system is
He's
it's
gonna
really
come up with the
adaptable.
systems.
Either they are going upstairs or they stay right there and
I
they
think
have
there's
their
a good,
heating
there's
and
a good
cooling.
space for them to go after you finish this project out up on the ground floor. There's a good opportunity. for them to-
Opportunity to move up or to leave them there, whichever
Whichever one
one.
you
But
want,
at
yeah.
least this part will be done with the heating and cooling part
I think,
on the newer style.
Yeah, Tom's mentioning he's gonna put cassettes in the room, so that's easy to change around in the future.
And you won't disrupt them.
I
at
think
that
the
time.
natural place is to put a door line in here, remove all that and turn it all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Turn
but
the
then
whole thing over.
you're giving them a lot of space that we could utilize for something else eventually down the road.
Nobody wants to be in the.
If.
Nobody wants to be in the basement.
Plus there-
That's beside the
You just
point.
need to make sure there's
Well, I
access to
mean,
the
what would it
restroom.
be?
Storage is the only thing.
Because Dalton and Ben will still be down there and they,
they have access to the comm center. I mean, if it's just Dalton and Ben.
Yeah.
You're still gonna have considerable space down there. It's just you're gonna move around.
I think,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, they're not gonna take up any more space.
No, not even if
Really?
they add another one, they're not talking about that much. more.
Right.
Not that much more.
so I did just because we were talking about that one space. I contacted some console manufacturers and, you know, granted, some of the stuff that I have in here is probably not as relevant with the direction that we've started to go. So it's just something to add to the discussion. The console vendor manufacturers, I asked them to evaluate that loading storage space for a plan of three additional consoles now and 4, you know, plan to report for the future. So if you look at that first packet, that's the current layout, that hand-drawn map. If the desire was to move the comm center into that loading storage space, I kind of, you know, just kind of roughly, well, actually, I think pretty good skills with that, you can just paint, but. But that second page shows the comm center with that column and the current kitchen counters. In addition to a bathroom along the water wall of the hallway down to part of, you know, divide that current comm center space into a bathroom and an office.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I think that's the relationship we need for a bathroom to the comm center space, unless we're going to plan on 2 dispatchers 24/7, 365. Then a bathroom down the hallway is not an issue, right?
That bathroom might, and again, pardon me for my ignorance, because my specialty is more on the electrical side, but this chase behind what you're calling the water wall, that whole thing is a plumbing chase. So all your sewer and everything are routed. That's where they go down below the slab right there. So working within that plumbing chase, we can, I mean, putting a bathroom may not,
That's not that, I don't
yeah,
know.
may not be a problem if you put it up against that wet wall. As you're calling it.
So, you know, and so I think that north room is doable. What I have following that is packets of different console position layouts. The first one is the vendor was Zybex. They mistakenly missed a column that's in the room that's near, and a doorway that's in the south east corner of that room. So that console layout would not work. They're reworking it. That's kind of one example, just that they put a console right where a column would go. The following 3 are different layouts proposed by Watson Consoles. The first one with kind of 45-degree angle dispatch positions would likely leave not a lot of space between 2 people working next to each other, which I think would be problematic for kind of rolling into each other and feeling a little claustrophobic. And it's kind of just because of that space being so rectangular. The following one, which is kind of got 4 positions kind of facing each other, doesn't leave a lot of space, only 3 foot between the desk and the wall. And they have the column actually incorrectly measured on their drawing. So that column's actually further away from both of those walls than what they estimated. I don't think that layout would work very well for us. And then I think the last one would be workable. We'd have to move, I think we'd have to move that 4th position to along the south wall. So I guess what I do this to illustrate just that that space would be workable if that's the direction we want to go. It's not ideal just because of planning for the 4 positions in the future. You know, if we had different space with different dimensions, it would look differently and might be operationally better. But these are kind of evaluations that we can do. I mean, future plans that we want to do. I mean, the console folks are pretty eager to give us drawings and let us know what they might be able to do. So, getting things adjusted in the future and reevaluate would be something we could do. Moving forward. Not that, I don't know if that helps or not, or if it muddies the water more.
Well, I think it helps. I think I've
Keep
worked
the
on a
scope
911
simple.
comm center over in Grand Island, Hall County in the past, and I don't know what the, if you put out the real requirements for the comm center from whatever group, what the requirements are. If it's a, kitchenette, restrooms, hardened, like we're getting into the redundancy, you have to look at that as well. And as a separate project, I think you guys are all right. We don't do a whole lot in this right now.
I think it's out of the scope of the original plan. with ARPA money.
And then we look at, or whoever looks at the comm center in the future. And the future might be in 6 months from now, you get that, who knows, a year, whatever. But yeah, it's probably too big of a chunk to bite off all at once. As part
And I
of
think
it.
Tom's right. Let him do some research on that.
Mhm.
But there's simpler ways there.
Absolutely.
I should be able to get an answer back to you guys in the next couple of days.
And because I think too, this, with what this all looks nice, but
Well,
I don't think we're gonna be
But
able
as
to
a
hack
part
it
of
now.
rescue money, American Rescue Plan.
and I don't want to, I think it's a needed project at some point in the near future. But I also don't want to see us do something halfway or there's another word I'd like to use, but not in a public.
Well, do something now to rip out later. You don't want to do that.
Well, I don't want to do that. I also don't want to do something that's settling that really operationally something else will do better.
And you're talking about the next 30 years.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's gonna take care of my question.
Yeah.
Can we move on?
Yep,
Yeah, so just for clarity, so right now I'm gonna do some research on taking care of the HVAC in their present location. So you don't have to move them as part of this project. And once I get that answer back to you, assuming we can do that, that's what direction we'll go. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? I guess? Okay. And
Yeah, I
then
think
Hopefully
I
it's-
think for
Use new
my
wire.
purpose, and I don't know how the rest, I think that place down there is ideal for, for safety wise. And when we expand it, that can be done, but I'm not so sure we don't do another phase later on to do that. Because I think we're gonna be,
I think we're gonna be all pleasantly shocked, just doing the HVAC. No, it won't be anything pleasant, but
I do have to say, long term, basements is good for protection from tornadoes. Not great for protection from water.
Yeah.
And so the basement concerns me for both water intrusion or for pipes overhead. What might happen. We've had a pipe break in another space, numerous ones of them in the basement. We've always looked out at older concepts.
the beauty is when you're done with this project, we'll have plenty of white space on ground and basement.
Yeah, we will.
to Look at. So
Yeah.
it's not like we won't have options.
And a plug and
to look
play,
at. Yeah.
plug and play heating.
so was there a couple more big key points you guys wanted to get to? Because I do know there's a subcommittee health
Yeah,
insurance meeting right
understood.
now.
Right, I do. I just real briefly, and I can take 5 minutes here if I wrap up. So moving forward, we just want to select a bid date. We don't have to do that now. We can maybe wait and hear back from if it's in August or if it's in September or if you had any other. But I know right now we're doing the energy audit on the building.
We'll have that meeting next week, not energy audit, the Mid-American Energy Incentive Plan.
So there's a
So
rebate.
we'll have that, I think it's next week. Yeah, and then we'll find out what our option, how much we're getting. And then it's basically kind of getting them pointed in the right direction. Once that's done, I think, as far as what we need to do to wrap up the drawings, really, it's just.
Front end bid stuff. I have a few drawing things to probably do and then.
Mine are just what we talked about
Yeah,
here. So
Yeah, we're pretty close. If we decide it's in August, I think mid-August, late August would be good. It's something y'all can discuss, how you want to do that. If it's better in September for the bidding, I mean, maybe we think about that. I'll put it in the minutes, so we'll come to an agreement if that works for y'all. Okay. So just a final couple of closing things. I'm gonna get you an updated cost estimate. Code review, I spoke with Greg Shank, I believe. Sure. Sure. That's right. Just like Shrek.
Just
like Shrek.
He's informed me he's gonna retire in a couple of weeks, so I passed along drawings. I cannot remember, I'm sorry, the person who works with
For the city.
with Greg, yeah.
Johnson,
Johnson,
Perry.
yeah.
Perry.
Perry, there you go. Sent him to Perry. I invited him to discuss the plan. So we're probably gonna do that. Big picture, I discussed what we're doing with Greg, and he thought we were right on the right track in terms of everything. We really thought sprinkling, building, things of the phasing construction, things of that nature. So we're good there, I think. We're gonna have a conversation maybe this week or next on the code. And then one last thing real quick on the allowances. So we've identified a few allowances right now. So the allowances are just chunks of money built into the bid. We say, put this much money into the bid for these different, criteria. Allowance number one, we want to build in a contingency allowance for unseen circumstances if you run across. The number is going to look big because we're looking at 5% of the overall cost. You don't have to spend it up front, but if you run into something, you have that cushion. If you decide later on you still have money left over, you can maybe put that towards it.
Yeah, that's something.
150, 160 grand. 200. 5%.
5% of 4.4.
Say in the 3 or under 4.
Well, we could try. I mean,
Okay.
that's, yeah. We'll get you where you need to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
that's-
the idea is to have money kind of built into the project that the board can act on, but then it doesn't have to go through a super formal change order process as well, because it's already part of the contract.
So instead of doing an engineering change or change engineering change order.
Change order, you have to go back to the well for more money.
Yeah, and it's just, when you're doing existing, like a building like this, it's always 5% reasonable. And then the nice thing is, if you don't use it, then it just comes back to you at the end. So
Is 5% sufficient?
I'd say it's a minimum.
Yeah,
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, that's usually, I think usually a lot of times 10%.
I've used 10% in the past on a really complicated jail project. The only reason we got to 10% is because we did more work. So 5%, if you guys feel comfortable going to 10, I'm more than comfortable going to 10. So,
I think,
yeah,
I'm more comfortable with that. I'm more comfortable with 10%. That's why I
The beauty is
questioned
that during bid day, if you come back and the project's over budget slightly, you can take a look, you can adjust that contingency at that time too. And say, well, let's go down to 5, say that,
well, you can find out where the real spots are, where you might be going over budget or where there's concern and dial it in after. So let's put in 10%.
I think Woodbury was 38% off on their jail. There's a number, let you think about.
Yeah,
When we're not
And that was a
bonding, when
big
we're
number.
using our
38%
No, we're not
is a
bonding.
big.
yeah. This
Well,
is,
yeah, but
yeah.
they're
And you're gonna
jail
have
is
a little bit different.
multiple
Period, yeah.
alternations,
Like
right?
80
Or
million or
alternates, I'm
something
sorry.
like
We're gonna have multiple alternates.
Choose from.
So yeah, I'll touch on that here in just a second. Other contingency is just testing. So if we have any concrete testing, plumbing, any testing, I'm gonna put a number into that. Commissioning is something I don't know that we've talked about, but at the end of the project, somebody needs to go through and make sure everything's working as it's supposed to be.
Yeah, the state energy code requires that a commissioning agent comes through and verify that the system meets design intent and energy code.
So I'm gonna put in money for that. You can't really bid on that without having a number. So I'm gonna put a number to that, and then also an allowance for this cabling that we talked about. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tom and I are gonna circle the wagon to figure out what those numbers need to be. We'll keep you up to speed on that. The alternates, we have the roofing complete as an alternate. If you decide not to do it, you'll probably save yourself 150, 200,000 as part of this contract. So that's a big number. The movable wall down in the meeting room is one that's been running about $30,000 for having that. Not a big deal. The other alternates, there's one more that I have right now, and then possibly another are we still talking about another alternate or? So the third alternate that I have is the demolition of the jail, the walls inside of the jail space. So that's gonna be about 85,000. So is how that's been running. Any more alternate? No more alternate.
Yeah, the problem is that, I mean, with the, especially with the HVAC, it's like all or nothing. You have to get rid of everything, because you have to get rid of that chiller and boiler. So you can't just leave parts of it on.
No piecemeal.
Yeah, you can't piecemeal it, so.
Was the parking lot out front, was that gonna be an alternate, or is that got not? in
We
phase
talked
one?
about not doing that, and so I steered some of our fee towards analyzing the existing roofing of the building.
Didn't we with secondary roads doing it? We thought that'd be part of that.
Yeah, you thought that would be something the county would handle.
I just wanna- I knew we talked about it.
From our fee standpoint, I took those fees and I put them towards analyzing the roof, since we're putting new equipment on the roof. We had our structural engineer look at your roof from a snow loading standpoint, due to the new jail standing next to it, any drifting. He also looked at it to make sure that the new equipment, each one of those new condensing units or whatnot is 1,000 pounds, and then the big one is 3,500 pounds. So it's like parking 3 or 4 Cadillacs up on the road, weight wise. So our structural engineer looked at that. Found out everything's fine. It can handle those loads. So you're lucky to have this sturdy of a building. So a little bit on that. I think, ACM report, we have the ACM and lead report back. We're not touching any areas that really are handrails, not touching those. Some ACM, some asbestos containing materials are going to be in the plaster ceilings and then some wall plaster. So big picture, we're going to build that into the bid. The contractor will have to bid to have that asbestos removed before any demolition crews come in. By phase.
We're leaving
so
all
it's
the
not-
floor tiles up.
we can do that, or you could have it removed, whichever your preference is. We'll bid on having those taken out. That pales in comparison to the cost of the ceiling and the walls, so I wouldn't get hung up on that necessarily. It's good to have a clean bill of health on your building moving forward if you can remove what you can now. So we're gonna build the removal into that. I think what that's gonna mean is probably building in partitions when they're doing their phases, so a quick, drywall partition out in the corridor when they're doing demo on this side of the building. Flip-flop that over to the other side when they're doing that side. So I'm gonna start showing partitions, but we've been tracking that all the way through our estimating process. We've had that included, so it's not a surprise to us. In fact, there's probably less than we might have assumed, so cost estimate wise, I think we're okay. That is it. Yeah, for me. You guys have any questions or anything?
So what is current estimate look like?
I just got it in my inbox this morning. I haven't cracked it open. I sent out drawings on the 30th and our estimators gotten back. I don't think anything's changed. so
Pull
much.
up on your phone and tell
Well, he doesn't have my piece yet.
Yeah, I don't have,
okay.
yeah, I can tell you the
So which
architectural portion.
Yeah, so I
but
still have to do that.
again, nothing's really, you haven't changed your scope. So
Yeah,
we're putting a little more detail to it, but the scope hasn't really, the only thing we might have done is added the extra temp space down on the ground floor. But we also are not doing 2 phases on the meeting room, so that's gonna save some money. You can move over your temp space. I've had this project on lock, trying to keep it from growing and expanding. outside of
Well,
what
I think
we-
that's the thing we gotta remember. Our
Yeah.
part is HVAC,
Exactly,
remodel the treasurer's and auditor's office
yeah.
and the board.
I've seen these snowball in the past, and then you get a surprise at midtime, and I'm really trying to.
So the only thing that
Alright.
changed in my estimate is really the adding of the return air ductwork.
HVAC.
So we'll put a number to that. And then the other thing we want to do is we're gonna have our equipment suppliers reprice all the equipment. I just want to make sure there has been escalation. I want to get an idea of what that escalation has been.
Yeah, SEH as a whole has been tracking that with all projects, architecture, bridges, roads, all that. And they're saying across the board about 15% above what it used to cost.
It's not as inflated as some.
No.
Well,
Yeah.
the nice thing is that, we use, as part of our estimates, we act like our PD estimate that we gave you, we actually went out to manufacturers and got equipment pricing and then incorporated that into our estimate. So we didn't just assume a number. And so it'll be interesting to have them reprice because nothing's really changed.
Our lead time is coming down.
No.
This is-
Well, no, actually, on some stuff, they are starting to, I think we peaked.
Less than a year.
Yeah, I'm starting to, yeah. Some things are starting to be a little bit quicker, so we're starting to see that stuff, the lead times decline. Again,
88 bathrooms in phase one
They don't,
on this floor.
they'll be with the
Phase 2.
phase 2.
Okay.
Mhm. So I think what we're gonna do is get you our opinion on the cost and then add 15% to that to let you know what that really looks like. And then, again, we're still where we can be if we want to do any more considerations of alternates. I know that those really help when you get your base bid and then all the alternates are added to that, you can see what your bottom line is. And if you have the funds to put in more, you can do that. That's the way I like to do it rather than subtracting, because you get a huge number up front, you go into sticker shock and then you start going backwards from there. So try to do it the other way around where we have
Value engineer.
value engineer and we have what's absolutely necessary to get this project going and done in your base bid. That's your number. If you want to consider anything else to be moved into an add alternate sort of scenario, you mentioned the number you'd like to be at. I'd certainly like to be at.
Is it phase
as
3?
well.
It's last one.
that was fun.
Okay.
I guess my biggest fear is that, we're getting ready to go to bed and then we look things over and then, oh, well, somebody says, I didn't realize we were doing that. Or I think at some point in time, we really need to go over everything
One more
Sure.
time.
one more time
Yeah.
in detail.
I agree. Yeah.
When you guys
And-
get your numbers together, what do you think about that, Dane? When they get their final numbers that they have projected, set up an off the board meeting, because obviously it's gonna be a long meeting when we do that and go through each.
Yeah,
Block out a full day.
I'd like to have the drawings 99-100%. See, right now, I build 90, because I think I'm at 90. Tom's at 95, he's there, so I still have a little bit more to do. So maybe in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, we meet again, and then we take a.
That'd be a good one to maybe get everybody especially Dalton and Zach involved in that. Maybe that we incorporate that in one meeting so you guys hear some of his comments directly versus, through meeting minutes.
Not a redesign, but just to go over what current is.
Right. And again,
That's a good
they
point.
understand it, but they may have things like, oh, well, we'd rather maybe tweak this to move this there or whatever, just to.
Well, that's the expectations too. I've had projects where you come in during construction and people are surprised how we're doing
That's
that.
not what I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of page.
I want to
turns.
set
Don't like
the
that.
set the
It's not-
expectations.
So why don't you guys email me once you feel comfortable to
Especially
have
if we
that
got-
meeting,
Mhm.
whether that's in 2 or 3 weeks, and then
Yeah.
we'll set it up.
Yeah, and I'll do that and I'll send you the plans ahead of time.
Okay.
as well.
Yeah, especially when you have a set of plans we look
Yeah,
at. That
absolutely.
helps.
Right. Yeah, today's one of those days where the water is a little muddy still. We want to get some direction, get the dots finalized.
Courtney, do you have anything next week?
The 18th?
Yep. No. Okay, I'm gonna leave, just so the board understands, I'm gonna leave that deciding factor if there's going to be a meeting up to Rich, since he'll be leading that meeting on that Monday.
Last time I was in charge, we drove her right in the ditch. Of course, that was
That was a-
20, that was 2020.
Is there any
That was
comments
a
online?
full year.
Everything went in the ditch.
That was 2020.
Okay.
And
Thanks,
that's
Dalton.
probably ain't gonna be your deal.
All right, and then order. for
I will make that motion.
Second.
Third.
All right, there's been a motion, a second, and a third. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries